Welcome back to Live for Love TV. Today's the 21st day of the 12th month of the 22nd year inside the 21st century. I hope everyone's doing well out there. I was reading a scientific paper a little while ago, and I went over it again to look at its findings, and it was quite interesting. It was talking about prostate cancer. Now, we know that when it comes to cancers, there's a whole heap of things that people claim that causes one cancer or another. They more have an idea as to what you should take, nutrition and stuff like that, than to what actually causes particular cancers. They have some ideas and they have some hypotheses. Lung cancer, for instance, they say is carcinogenics, such as cigarettes and smoke and such other things. But this scientific paper was talking about prostate cancer, and it was describing why men of a certain age get prostate cancer, not just enlarged prostate, but the actual prostate cancer. And its suggestion was that as men age, they reduce in sexual activity, therefore reduce in the amount of semen that they produce, therefore causing the prostate. Because most of you I'm sure know how the prostate works, that it mixes with the semen. It has a fluid in the prostate that mixes with the semen before ejaculation from the man, yeah? So it has its own fluid. Now, obviously, if you're not having any sexual activity as a man, then obviously this fluid that is going into that is inside the prostate, that the prostate produces, is not going to be used. And some people suggesting this is why it becomes enlarged as you get older, and as you slow down and reduce, it becomes more inflamed and then turns into a form of cancer. Now, there is a little bit of hypothesis in there. There's no 100% agreement either way on this, but it's very likely. And I make this point because as men age, especially when they say check your prostate in your 50s, 60s, 70s, as men age, and you see there is no doubt that they reduce in activity, the prostate becomes in danger. So what happens in relationships? What happens if you have a relationship, you're married, and let's say for instance you're 65, you're 70, and your wife's no longer that active or doesn't want to be active, or she's not able to keep up with what your regular intake would need to be in order for you not to get prostate cancer. Would you be able to have a candid discussion with her about this, or would she just rule it out and say, I don't want to hear it? You're married to me, that's the end of it. This is how it goes. Because some men, would turn around and say, well, that's selfish. Women might say, well, it's selfish for a man to want to have more than one woman, or to have sex 3-4 times a week if the woman doesn't want to have it. That would be selfish of him. But if his life is in danger, because that's what prostate cancer effectively is, if his life's in danger, what would he do? What would most men do? It looks like a lot of men haven't even realized, and it doesn't have to do with marriage or relationships. A lot of men haven't realized that this is something that is under the microscope from scientists, and that this is something that people, especially a lot of men, have talked about for many, many years. The late Dr. Sabi, who was having children right up to his late 70s or his 80 or 80 or whatever it was he was, obviously had a very healthy prostate. Had a very healthy prostate, and he talked very often about prostate and stuff like that. So, and how to look after the prostate and all that. And he was very active. And we know that an active man, I've been in Africa and seen men in their 90s having children, really in their 90s, not suggested they're in the 90s, but they're in their 90s and they're having children. Very healthy prostates. They don't die of prostate cancer, these type of people. So something is wrong, and something is wrong with the Western ideology, the Western culture, that basically emasculates men into the point where they have to listen to somebody else who doesn't have the same physical characteristics as them. So many of these men are listening to women who are saying, this is what you should do, this is how you should live, and they're listening to them, and they're going down that road. And I'm saying, no, something is very, very seriously wrong there. You can have any discussion with your wife or with your woman, your girlfriend, whatsoever, but you can't be listening to her onto how your body works. You've been inside that body for 65, 70 years. You should by now, if you have any consciousness whatsoever, have learned how your body works and how it operates at its best. Yeah? And this is what you should be looking at And if you've got sons, you need to educate them as young and as soon as possible, so that they don't fall into the trap of being emasculated by the society, and then agreeing to things that are not in their health interest. You know, it's all very well for people to be crying at the man's funeral, but they may be a contributor to that man's funeral by saying he shouldn't be doing this and he shouldn't be doing that. So, you know, these things never happened, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, when men were men, as they call them, alpha men. These things never used to happen, you know. So at that time, men did as they pleased, basically. They did as they pleased, and I've never heard, maybe you can go back and look and dig up the bodies, but I've never heard of this prostate cancer. Now, as we've come into a world now where men, as I keep saying, are emasculated, prostate cancer seems to be a thing all over the world, especially in the Western world where men are the most emasculated. Some would say this is just a correlation, but it's a very powerful correlation as far as I'm concerned. So take a think about these things, have a discussion with your significant other, if you're a man, and I can't give you the go-ahead what to do, because if you're a man, you wouldn't need a go-ahead from me, and you certainly shouldn't need a go-ahead from any female, regardless of whether it's your mother, your wife, or your daughter, what you need to do as a man. Take care. Live for Love TV.
People, one step more, one step more, one step more, one step more, until you reach your goals. One step more. This is Live for Love.